I'm sitting here saying, why is Kamilla only taking 4 shots in a game? Especially not in foul trouble. And she's only playing like 20 minutes.
Right.
I don't understand that because your stars are Kamilla Cardoso and Angel Reese. Everything needs to flow through them. Hello everyone, welcome into another episode of South Carolina Sideline. I'm Matt Dowell and I'm joined alongside Claire Foley today. Claire, how's it going?
Back in the seat.
Back in the seat. I know, yeah, we like to rotate Claire and Jared every single week to kind of keep it fresh, keep the opinions differing, and also we have so much work to do that we got to make sure someone's out, doing stories for our 30-minute show every week or every day. And so it's a lot of fun. But Claire, before we get started, for our viewers and listeners who don't know, I mean, the countdown's on.
Oh my goodness.
Claire's getting married next week.
Married. Yes, literally next week.
Literally.
I leave a week from today, and a week from Saturday is the wedding.
Yes.
So it's coming up.
And it's fun. It's July 5th, but
July 5th.
It's a July 4th wedding. Are you considering it that, or is it like no? July 5th?
Yeah, kind of, because we did it that way because we have a lot of people traveling for it. So it's going to be back in Massachusetts where most of my family is, but I also have family in New Jersey. And then, of course, all of his family is here in South Carolina. So it helps that it's a holiday weekend. So, like, people already have off anyway, that kind of thing. But we picked the day specifically because July 5th was our first date. And then it's also my grandparents' wedding anniversary.
I love that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of meaning.
Day.
And all the fireworks that will be happening in
Foxborough.
Foxborough.
We don't have to pay for it, so somebody else does it for us.
And you're just like, it's all celebrating us.
Yes.
Like that's going to be the vibe.
Thank you so much for having this celebration for me.
So Claire will be gone for a couple weeks to, for a good reason, to get married and enjoy that part of her life. But I can't believe, you've been talking about it for so long. I can't believe it's already here.
So we got engaged last July, and when it happened, we're like, oh, we've got a year, so much time. The last year has just flown by.
Yeah, but you're in the home stretch.
Yes,
and hopefully you're in the part
there.
too where you can almost like relax and just let's enjoy
this.
this.
We got all the big things done early enough, and like all the pesky little things a couple weeks ago of like table numbers and seating and meals and stuff like that. So now it's just like, okay, tiny little details, cruise. And like, it'll be nice too that I'm going to be there almost a full week ahead. So it's also been a challenge trying to plan a wedding 1,000 miles away. So. Yeah,
I know. Claire's been flying back and forth from here to Boston like every single weekend, trying to get ready for it. So it's the countdown is on, there. And she'll be gone for a couple weeks, but for good reason. And Kate Crenshaw, who does a lot of play-by-play for South Carolina baseball and softball, and is the SID over at Allen University. That is her soon-to-be groom.
Yes.
Groom-to-be. Well, he is the groom-to-be. He will be the soon groom and the husband. And so we're very, very excited for both of them. Great people, and we love them, and we're so excited for you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into some Gamecock talk. So yeah, you guys can all pay attention for Claire's wedding photos, which will be out soon. But again, it's been a busy summer for Gamecock athletics. Always today we're talking about the WNBA, and we got a preview of the South Carolina men's basketball team's season today. Claire was with Lamont Paris this morning, so we will get a preview of their season and talk the NBA draft. But first, Claire, we're going to talk about the Gamecocks in the WNBA because there are 11 now, and it does feel like everywhere you turn, it's like a Gamecock, like a headline, not even just playing, but a headline. And so first, we got a few players we want to talk about, and it does differ week to week on who is really shining that week. But first, the Fever and the Aces went at it yesterday in Vegas, and one moment that caught my eye was A'ja Wilson and Aliyah Boston. Great competitors, the two, I think, greatest players to ever come out of the Gamecock program, both Naismith winners and all of that. And they faced off many times at this point. But A'ja and Aliyah, I don't really know what the word, chirping. They were kind of talking a little bit out there. And I don't really know exactly what it's, all I know that was clear is that A'ja was saying something to Aliyah, and you see Aliyah go, oh my gosh. And then A'ja goes, that's all you do. That's all you do. And I think everyone kind of like clutched their pearls. We're like, why are A'ja Wilson and Aliyah Boston? Why are they talking a little bit? But nothing serious at all. But it was fun, and I think everyone was kind of like, wait, Wait, keep the peace. What's going on?
And I think that's what's so funny is like the sports fan reaction is like, oh, there's beef there. What happened? What's the story? Why are they mad at each other? And it's not that. I saw one of the comments on the video like, oh, that is the most sister argument I've ever seen in my entire life. And I personally don't have sisters, but my mom has 5 sisters. Woo. And for my friends that have sisters, like the running joke is that like you and your sister will be going at it, fighting, saying the meanest things you've ever said to another person. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, hey, you want to go get a coffee? And like, you're best friends again. And it didn't happen. And like, that's what it looked like. It's just like, oh, you're so annoying. You do this, you do that. It's like, girl, leave me alone.
I posted the video on social media on my Twitter X account. And those were the comments. It was like, dawn on dawn crime. It was like, oh, this is so like big sister, little sister. But I think I was trying to think, and if you guys that are watching or listening can think of another moment, I can't think of a moment in the pros where we saw 2 former Gamecocks kind of jaw at each other a little bit. Usually it's, all love, and it's all love between A'ja and Aliyah. But I was trying to think of another moment like that where the competitive fire was, at the forefront between 2. So if you guys remember a moment, let us know, because I couldn't think of one off the top of my head. But when it comes to basketball, the Aces won, and it was a much-needed win for them. A'ja Wilson is back, which is fantastic for the sport. She's back from concussion protocol. But both Aliyah and A'ja came to play yesterday, which is when the game took place. Aliyah with 26 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, she was cooking, especially in the first half. A'ja Wilson had 24 points, 7 rebounds. And it was interesting because Aliyah was on fire in the first half. A'ja started slow, but finished really well. And that was when it mattered the most in this game. It was an 89-81 victory for the Aces. But it was fun to see them kind of, the competitive fire, but also that both played really well.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what you were saying before about the Gamecocks in the WNBA, and not just being there, but they're making headlines. You talk about Aliyah having a double-double yesterday. A'ja had one on Friday, and then not to get ahead of ourselves bringing another team, but LA also had one yesterday. Like, these are impact players, and especially for a team like the Aces that isn't doing that well this year, to see the impact that A'ja has when she is there versus when she's out for a couple games, it's apparent.
We'll see what that win can do for the Aces, because they do need a fire lit under them. And even A'ja said, like, if we don't get it together, we're going to get our butts kicked. Like, continued over and over and over. And A'ja is such a pro. I think they'll get it together. I still don't know if I see them as a winning team this season, because they don't have the depth and the bench production. But when you have someone like A'ja, superstars make things happen, and I'm interested to see how the rest of this season goes. You talked about the Valkyries, and 2 weeks ago we talked about Letitia Ami here being back on the roster, which is fantastic, and she's balling, by the way. She never should have been waived. I'm gonna die on that hill, you guys. That Letitia Ami here. I know that there's front office things, and I know that a lot of their roster is over in Europe right now, playing some Europe ball before they return. So we'll see if Ami here stays on the roster. That will be something to follow.
That's the other thing. Good for her for taking advantage of the time she has. They waived her, or she didn't make the final cut of the team, but then she comes. She has her opportunity, and she's, like you said, balling out while she has the chance.
Yeah, she's coming off the bench, but getting a lot of good minutes and really posting up good numbers, like across the board, not just points and rebounds, but blocks, assists. She's really doing a little bit of everything. And Letitia Ami here, I think, has always been that player. I remember at South Carolina when they were trying to shuffle, and I think it was Destiny Henderson that got hurt, and Dawn put LA at the 1. She made her the point guard, and everyone was like, okay, that is an interesting move that we didn't see coming. And Ami here balled out. I mean, she owned that one role, and it was for a few games. It wasn't like a half or one game. LA played the point guard at South Carolina for multiple games. And so when I saw that, I'm not surprised when I see her be able to do a little bit of everything all over the floor, because I remember being a little shocked at that, but then it worked, and it was like, wait a minute. LA's really good as a point guard, and you don't see a 6'4" point guard a lot in women's basketball. So that's a fun memory, and it's continued into the league. But the other big news this past week when it comes to the Golden State Valkyries and another former Gamecock is Bree Hall being signed to the Valkyries roster. I know that that was a very joyous news for Gamecock fans. Everyone wondering if Bree would get put on a roster after being waived by the Fever. And I was so happy to see her on that team. And Claire, she's making good use of her signing because she had a big moment this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. She got her first career points in the WNBA yesterday. I talked to her parents last week about her getting this other shot, and they said she had just been staying ready after she was waived by Indiana. And I asked them, like, so what does that look like? They're like, she was in the gym every day. She had her trainers. And even they said that when she got the call on Monday, I guess it was, she was on a plane to California that day.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
It is so fast. And I loved what Bree said on social media after the game. She was like, I couldn't help but like cheese so hard after scoring, because I always want people to have perspective on how hard it is to get to that level. You know, just to play in college and D1 college is hard. To get to the pro level is hard. To play a pro basketball game, you know, everyone wants to be like an all-time great and stuff, but to play in a pro basketball game, to score in a pro basketball game is a big moment for any player. And so it's like, yeah, you deserve to smile when you score a basket in the pros. So Bree Hall on the Valkyries roster, and just like LA, you know, they do have players again in Europe. They have a lot of Europeans on their roster. So when they do come back, I'm interested to see what happens with the roster, because they can't keep everyone, so I'm interested to see what moves happen. But you talked about, this is a good time to plug our interview for this coming Thursday, because Claire did speak with Bree Hall's parents, Brian and Lashana, and that is going to be our interview on Thursday here on South Carolina Sideline. It was a great conversation. You really got to pick the brains as parents in these situations, because they don't know what's happening either. Right. And so can you give us a little tease? You kind of told us a little bit, but can you give us a little tease on that conversation?
Yeah, for sure. We talked about a lot. Obviously, we started with this new signing for Bree. We talked about what the experience was like for them as a family back on draft night when she was first picked by Indiana. They said they had a watch party at their house. All their friends and family were there. They said it was super special. And then, of course, obviously, she got waived before the season started. So talked about how that was emotionally for her and them as a family, how they supported her, what she's done in the meantime since then, and went back and talked about some of her Gamecock career. We talked about the recruiting process of what got her here to South Carolina, talked a couple stories about that back when she was coming on some visits, what they first thought about Columbia and South Carolina when they first got here, when they officially knew it was the right place for Bree, and all that fun stuff that got us to where we are today.
I can't wait to listen to it. I have seen parts of it, so I did get a little sneak peek of it. But that conversation between Claire and Bree Hall's parents is going to be out on Thursday here on our podcast. So really, really, really looking forward to all of you guys getting to watch and listen to that wherever you guys digest your podcast. Before we take a break, though, I have a bone to pick with one WNBA team right now. One WNBA team. And that is the Chicago Sky. Because, Claire, they have 6'7" Kamilla Cardoso.
Yep, they do.
And they're not having a good season.
Nope,
I mean, that's not an opinion, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
And when I look, Kamilla is so versatile in the way that she can move, and she's just got so many different weapons. But also, not a lot of WNBA teams have a 6'7" center, and not a 6'7" center that can move and pass the way that she does. So when I'm looking at the box score and watching the game on Sunday, I'm sitting here saying, why is Kamilla only taking 4 shots in a game, especially not in foul trouble, and she's only playing like 20 minutes?
Right.
I don't understand that, because your stars are Kamilla Cardoso and Angel Reese. Everything needs to flow through them. Yep. And I don't understand why both of them are not, you know, getting more opportunities and scoring more. I don't really understand what's going on, because at the beginning of the season, Tyler Marsh said the offense is going to flow through Kamilla. I'm not seeing that, especially on a consistent basis. For your 6'7" center to only take 4 shots in an entire game, I don't get it. And I don't get what the strategy is.
And that's what's interesting about it too, is like, you think of a 6'7" center, when it comes to mind, you might think of, oh, she probably doesn't have the mobility. She's probably just going to go down by the post, get rebounds, put them back, that kind of thing. But that's not the kind of player she is. But even if she was, you would probably get 4 shots a game from her. So what is the misstep here that she's not getting more than that when she has the ability to do so much more? And I said to you before we got on the podcast, if you said last year, before that season started, that a team with Kamilla Cardoso and Angel Reese would be 3-10? No.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's clearly something awry here, whether it's in terms of their game plan, strategy, that kind of thing, but something's not right.
And they did make moves in the offseason, which is why I'm also so surprised at the record. And granted, I do know Courtney Vandersloot went down with a season-ending injury, so that is a big blow because she's a veteran. She knows what she's doing. She's a huge weapon on the offensive end from the guard position. But still, I don't know. It's just, to me, even when Vandersloot was playing, I didn't think that they were using the Twin Towers enough. And so I don't know what the answer is for Chicago, but I think one of the answers is get Kamilla the ball more and do something. I don't know. It's frustrating to watch a team that has such a weapon like that not use them. So that's my bone to pick. I don't know if we should start a segment called Bone to Pick. I don't know what it is. But anyway, there are 11 former Gamecocks in the WNBA now, which is very, very exciting to watch. Don Staley's posting about them on social media like every 5 seconds. So because there are so many to watch.
Many of them. You have to keep up.
You have to keep up with everybody. And that's we haven't even dived into all that we could. And also, before we go to a break, shout out to Tahina Paopao because she has been dropping 16 points like nonstop.
Hey, it's my lucky number. It must be her lucky number too.
Yeah, so Paopao.
She's had three 16-point games so far this year. And one thing, I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to mention this too. She's got the 3 back.
Yep,
we waited all year to see her get the 3 back, and she had 5 3-pointers yesterday.
Because she struggled with the 3 a little bit towards the end of her senior year. It was just not flowing. It wasn't clicking, but she's found it in the pros. And Paopao is playing well. I'm thrilled for her. I think she should be on like the rookie team at this point because there aren't many other rookies. This class is performing really well, by the way, across the board in the WNBA, this rookie class. But Paopao is really shining on a team that she just seems to fit so perfectly, and she seems to be having a ball.
Yeah.
So
she's just having fun.
She's having fun, and the Dream are good. And Jared and I talked about it last week. They're a sleeper team, and I won't be surprised if the Dream are one of the few that are contending for the trophy by the end of the season. They have so many different weapons, and having Paopao coming off the bench and performing the way she is, that's a huge plus for Atlanta. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here on South Carolina Sideline. When we come back, Claire was with the Gamecock men's basketball team this morning, getting a little summer preview from Lamont Paris, and we're going to talk about the upcoming NBA draft where Collin Murray-Boyles is hoping to be a first-round pick. A quick time out here on Sideline. We'll be back after these messages. Well, I know it's June, and you'll probably think, why are we talking about college basketball in June when there's so much going on, with the NBA Finals just wrapping up, the WNBA is going on, and college football is on the horizon, which I got my eye on a little bit, so that's fun. SEC Media Days is on July 14th for South Carolina, but today, Claire, you got to go to the CLA, right, is where it was, to the CLA, and talk to Lamont Paris and get a closer look at the Gamecock men's basketball team who's losing a huge piece of the puzzle in Collin Murray-Boyles, and also has a lot of new faces. So I'm sure Lamont touched on a number of things, but what was some of the stuff that stood out to you from what Lamont said?
So to start, he gave an update on Meechie Johnson. He said
he's back.
He's back. He's been at every single practice and workout, but he hasn't been actually able to participate yet because he's dealing with some back tightness. He says he thinks it'll be a couple more weeks until he's able to fully participate with the team, but he's there, and he definitely said his leadership presence is huge. And I asked him specifically about that, about his leadership, and especially being able to see it in comparison to him 2 years ago. And he joked, he's like, well, think about it this way. When you first become a parent, you're going to do it differently than when you've been a parent for 5 years. And I was like, I don't really relate to this yet, but sure, I'm with you. I'm following. And he said that's basically what it's like with Meechie right now. He's like, he knows who he is. He knows we know who he is. He's comfortable here. He is set up for success here, so he's allowed to just be himself. And he said that level of comfortability is shining through his leadership, that he can walk into a room, he knows what to expect, and he knows what he has to offer. Off of that, also, Miles Studi is back. Yeah. He's able to participate. He's another one
Which is great news.
He said he was thrilled that he was able to come back. He said the two of them are like on the same wavelength about a lot of things. They're both pretty calm, cool, collected, and he's really excited to have that presence back on the team this year. He talked about Jordan Butler and Cam Scott coming back and trying to Lamont Paris loves his analogies.
Yes, he does. He really does.
So, one he had for them, he's like, when I was first learning how to ride a bike, my parents thought the training wheels would come off a lot sooner. People might feel that way with Jordan Butler and Cam Scott, but he said it'll come with time. When they're ready, they'll be ready, and we'll be ready for them. Yeah. Gosh. What else did we talk about? Collin Murray-Boyles, of course. One thing that was interesting that he talked about there was, so they do have one scholarship still available. And so it was asked if they plan to use that and to go out and get somebody. And he said the short but long answer is yes. They do plan to try to add someone to the team. And the challenge there was having conversations with Collin of whether he was going to come back or whether he was going to go to the NBA and try for the draft. And so in terms of roster construction, what they wanted to do was, okay, we can say we want to go find someone to replace Collin. Well, what if Collin decides to come back? Do we then have to tell that person, sorry, Collin came back, you have to go? Or do we want to try to build the roster so that it's complementary? So we are good and we're solid without Collin and we're prepared for that. And if he does decide to go to the NBA, even better. So he said that's kind of where they're at now. They planned for Collin not to be here.
Yeah.
So he's happy with where they are at, but they're probably going to still try to add somebody.
Yeah, well, that's good news for the Gamecocks. And I think it's one of those of a lot of people are questioning, like, what will the roster look like? Not like questioning the ability, just like because Collin is such a big piece of the puzzle and a few other guys left in the transfer portal and things. But Michi and Miles coming back, I think, is huge for the leadership. Michi has had such an interesting collegiate story, and a lot of it has been dictated by what's, some tragic stuff going on in his family, with some deaths in the family and things like that. But I think he's so beloved by Gamecock Nation. I think that it's going to be a really great way for him to end his college career on a high, because he does have so many memorable moments with South Carolina. But when it comes to Collin Murray-Boyles, a lot of the draft projections, and depending on when you guys are watching or listening to this, the NBA draft might have already happened because it is in a couple days. And so Collin Murray-Boyles, though, has been invited to the draft, which is great. And also all the projections I'm reading have him as a mid to late first round pick. I don't know if he'll be able to get into that top 10. Just depends on what everyone is looking for. But we're expecting it to be a big night for the Murray-Boyles family.
Yeah, and that's what Lamont Paris was talking about today as well. He said he's had some teams reach out to him to ask about Collin and the kind of player he is. He didn't name any names, but he said he had some teams reach out that they might have the opportunity to take a higher draft pick, so wanted to know about him as well. And he joked that Collin might owe him a piece of his salary later on because of the way he's talking him up and stuff. And he's like, but that's why these teams keep calling me, because they know I'm going to give them the truth. I'm not going to gas him up more than I think he is. I'm not going to lie and say he's bad or anything like that because he left. And the one thing he keeps telling these teams is that teams will often draft because of a player's ceiling. Like, oh, this person has the potential to one day be the MVP. He said with someone like Collin, you should draft him because of his floor. You know what you're going to get from him. It's going to be consistent. And he's a player that Paris thinks is ready now. He's like, he's someone that can come in and you can use him soon. And one thing he also talked about was one thing he had to encourage Collin to do over the last season was shoot more. He's like, I had to beg him to take shots. He's like, a lot of times the transition from college to the NBA is hard for some players because they're used to putting up 20 plus points a game, and then they go to the NBA and they're only asked to put up 6. He's like, that's a position where Collin would be okay because he called him a servant of basketball. He's like, he's there to be a team player. He is there to play good basketball. And so he said that those qualities and how elite he is at the game of basketball itself will serve him to make that transition a little easier.
The art of the role player is very underappreciated, I think. And Elijah Campbell, who was on our podcast last week, even said that's kind of what he thinks is going to happen with Collin, at least in this first year, is being a role player. Alex English, who was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, said the role players like Lou Dort, on the Thunder, who just won the whole thing.
Yeah.
They have so many role players, and those are his favorite players to watch. So they might not be the superstars and the ones that get all the headlines, but they are valued when it comes to the people in the room, who are making the decisions. So we'll see where Collin Murray-Boyles goes at the NBA draft. Again, expecting it to be a big night. But you heard from us. Let's hear from Lamont Paris about what he had to say about Collin Murray-Boyles, what he means to the program, but also his future NBA career.
Once Collin learns, and I don't profess to know the NBA like that, but once Collin learns how to move in the NBA, what the rules are, the rule changes, there are different rules. Once he learns those things, I think any team that gets him is going to be shocked at how viable an option he would be to actually put in a game pretty early on. Now, if you're taking him to say, we're going to take him, he's going to score 20, then that's ceiling. And I don't think you take him for ceiling right now. I think you take him because if you need him to play in a game at some point relatively soon, I think he's going to be able to do that. I do. I think he's rugged, sturdy, strong. He defends at an elite level, and then he knows how to play basketball at such a high level that when you surround him around really good friends. You guys know I talked about I had to make him shoot sometimes last year, right? Here's the problem with some guys transition to the NBA is that they score 22 in a college game per game, and then they get in the NBA and somebody asks them to score 6 points a game. Stand in a corner and make this when they double team Steph Curry. And that roles can be hard to make that transition mentally. It's just going to be hard. But that's who Collin is already. I mean, he already is a servant as a teammate. He just happened to be our most talented guy, and he had a servant mindset also. So I think that part of it translates well to the NBA.
So Collin Murray-Boyles, again, expected to have a big night. We're really, really excited for him. Maybe nervous, who knows? I don't know what everyone's feeling. But certainly, I know that last season wasn't great for the team, but I do think he'll be remembered as a Gamecock legend because he easily could have gone anywhere else. He stayed for a second year. They got back to the tournament for the first time, since the Final Four run his freshman year. So he has a lot of memorable moments and really had a huge impact, I think, on this team in 2 years. And he is a Columbia kid. He went to AC Flora, and he's very loved, and he is very humble as well. And what I always appreciated about Collin Murray-Boyles is that he never shied away from hard questions. He was always, I think, very honest and open with us in press conferences about what he was feeling in those frustrating moments, in those frustrating times. And while everyone else might have been down on the Gamecock men's team, he really was always trying to see the glass half full on how can they correct it, how can they do better. And he was the heart of that team. And I do think he left a legacy with South Carolina men's basketball and hopefully helped them get back, in a great projection going forward. Because making the NCAA tournament's hard, y'all. And for South Carolina to get back there his freshman season and for him to be the lifeblood really of the program these past couple of years, hopefully has set a new tone in this Lamont Paris era. Because I do think Lamont and CMB are kind of like intertwined in a way, his freshman year and Lamont's first season. So I'm excited for that. Claire, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Again, Claire's interview with Bree Hall's parents, Brian and LaShawna, will be released on Thursday. We're super, super excited for that, and really excited for you all to hear that conversation. I don't like calling them interviews on podcasts. I like calling them conversations because that's what we're trying to do is just chat here on the sideline. But that will be released on Thursday. As always, remember to like, subscribe, comment, follow us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. She is Claire Foley. I'm Matt Dowell. We'll see you on Thursday for the Bree Hall, I don't want to say the Bree Hall parents interview, the Brian and LaShawna Hall interview, the conversation that is on Thursday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Thursday here on South Carolina Sideline.